Okay. All right, everyone. Hilary, hang on. I'm going to do a wonderful intro, and then we're going to get started with you. First of all, thank you, everyone, for making it to the new location. Really, really big thanks to Kevin for hosting us, and Ward and Priyanka, who's not here. You really saved our butt this time. We really appreciate it, and it's a wonderful space. As you know, there is a lot of concerns about the COVID-19, which many people think looks like a JIRA ticket, which I agree. And so, I don't know if you've heard the news, but the Atlassian Summit has been canceled. I know. Now, the people like us who had tickets booked to Vegas are very, very upset. They are putting on a virtual summit with keynote speakers. You can go to the Atlassian Summit website and register, and you can watch it in real time. And I think that's the best they can do, but they pretty much have shut down all travel. We were lucky enough to get this event, but I am going to have to say that we're not sure we're holding in-person events until we get past this. We will assess it as we go. Stay tuned. We will communicate what's going on. But thank you so much for coming out, everyone. So we have a really good talk today. Hilary was going to join us in person, but they closed down travel for Atlassian. So we've got a wonderful setup. She's already presented once today already at TD, right? Right, so that was wonderful. So we're going to have a presentation by Hilary on what's new in Confluence Cloud. And then for the other side, we have an in-person Cathy expert, who I will come and announce you after Hilary's done, who will give us server tips and tricks. Anything else I need to mention, Mike or Danny? We're all good? Okay, Hilary, take it away.
Okay, thank you so much for the intro. Again, my name is Hilary, and I'm a product manager on Confluence Cloud at Atlassian. I'm really happy to be here virtually. I wish I could be there in person, but yeah, coronavirus has kind of thrown a wrench in things. I feel like this probably is the smallest of those things, so at least maybe that's an upside. But thank you so much for coming out. I'm really excited to tell you about some of our new features in Confluence and how your team can improve its productivity with these features and answer any questions you have going forward. I don't have control of the slides, so I'm going to need some help. Thank you. So just to review what we'll cover today, some common problems that teams encounter and new features in Confluence to address those issues. I'll also demo Confluence Cloud Premium, which is my personal baby and our newest enterprise offering for growing teams. And then I'll leave some time at the end to answer any questions that you have. So next, so Michael Jordan once said, "Talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence win championships." Now, let's assume that your teams have the right talent. I'm sure that they do. I'm going to share all of the ways that Confluence can help energize and superpower your team so that you're successful and you make the most of all of that talent. Great. So let's dive into some fun new features. I'm going to focus on some problems that your teams might be having and then ways we can solve them. So the first problem that people tend to run into is connecting people with content. So many organizations struggle with siloed teams, and this makes it challenging to work together towards common goals. And it's a common issue among teams of all shapes and sizes. And this is why we've been rolling out the new editor progressively, and we're adding features to make your teams more productive and to help you work faster. So with the new editor, everything happens in context. So you can bring in teammates quicker, you can present information that's expressive and powerful, hopefully without even having to put that into a slide deck. We really want to make the editor beautiful and presentation ready, and bring in information from lots of different sources so that it's really powerful for a quick presentation. the goal is to get everyone on the same page, figuratively and literally. So you might say pun intended. I think this might be a video if you click again, but I'm not positive. Yeah, there we go. So this is a project plan page, and it illustrates what you can do with the new editor. The backslash menu is how you can add anything to the page. You can choose layouts, kind of like columns, and set them to be fixed width or full width on the page. We know this is something customers were asking for after we rolled out the new editor. On the right, you can give your team the ability to navigate quickly with the table of contents. You can add a table like it's showing it up here, so all the editing happens right in context. You can use the slash command for anything, and it happens in line. You can mention your teammates by doing the @mention, and you can even bring in specific information about units of work in JIRA, and you can use the slash command for that too. So here we're tagging different teammates. We've used the status macro to mark something as in progress. Oh, it looks like there's a problem with my network. Hopefully you can still hear me. This one is the JIRA issue filter. So everything here really is WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. And you can add in different headers. You can add action items and assign them to your team. They'll get an email notification when you assign them. And so this helps you all stay on the exact same page about what needs to get done. You can use emojis, and I love using these because I feel like they really bring up the team spirit. They can make your spaces look really nice. I tend to organize everything with emojis within my team space, just as sort of a marker for the page. But that's just a little sample of all of the things you can do with the new editor. I want to make sure that you could hear me through all of that. I got a couple of network error flags. Was that okay? Is there lag?
Yeah, no, we can hear you fine. No worries. Thanks.
Okay, great. Just because I was getting like a yellow flash, wanted to make sure. Okay, so next one to help get rid of silos is easy to use and powerful images. So again, I think this is a video if you click again. But images are powerful ways that you can visualize information and ideas, right? So again, you can use this / command to open up the media picker and add images. This is the same media picker that we use across Atlassian. So you can upload an image only once and save storage that way and access files across your teams. You can also add image annotations. Image placement and sizing are intuitive and easy and getting even better. We've heard a lot of feedback on the images, and we're integrating that as we go. And images on the page are responsive and mobile friendly too. Lastly, all of the toolbars in the new editor are contextual. And what that means is you don't have to leave where you are on the page to do what you want to do. The toolbar stays either with the element or at the top. I want to show you next flexible tables. Tables are one of the places where I was most annoyed with Confluence before. I thought they were really crappy, and I love working in the new tables. There's still definitely some room for improvement, but we're working on it, and they're getting so much better. I really am happy about these changes. So pretty much, I think it's another video. You can change a table's width to fit the complexity of the information you're presenting. And it's just a really nice way to structure and organize complex data. If you have a complicated project, you have milestones, anything on your roadmap or goals, it's just a really nice way to frame the information that's in a way that's easy to process. Yeah, so there's just messing around with the table width. And you can like add in columns and rows right in between. Oh, I think it might just be a GIF going back and forth. Yeah, so next I want to show off our linkable headers. And these linkable headers actually replace the anchor macro that was in the old editor because it allows you to make headers linkable and drop people in the exact spot on the page that you want them to read. Oh, looks like I'm getting another view of the room here. Hey guys, I'm seeing some people at tables in the back. I'll give a little wave. But pretty much you can link headers to a direct piece of content, and it's a platform component, so it works the exact same way in JIRA. Slide. So for this, we have fully interactive macros in Edit. And hopefully all of you know by now, but macros really are the most powerful tool we have in the Confluence editor. And so fully interactive macros in Edit are actually a really big deal now because they're what you see is what you get. Whereas before you had to go into edit mode and change things, jiggle them around, come back, you're not sure what it's going to look like. Now you know exactly what it's going to look like. And soon the macros will be fully interactive in the editor. So it's not just a WYSIWYG snapshot, but you can actually get work done in them, and you can do it from anywhere on the page. Next one. So full width pages are a really great option for technical teams that create information dense pages. And this is a place where we've really heard your feedback with the new editor, and it was something that people missed from the old editor, so we made sure we added it back in because we know that it's important to have a ton of information on some Confluence pages. We've also added this as a default setting that you can choose if you prefer your pages to look like this. And if you're an engineer and you always want your pages to open in full width mode, you can set this as your own default so that it's just right off the bat in this mode and you don't have to go out of your way to set it that way. Moving on to some fun new mobile stuff. We've been working really hard to make sure that your mobile experience matches your web experience. And before I was on the Confluence team, I actually was on our mobile platform team. And so we work really hard with mobile platform to make sure that our editor on Confluence mobile is the same as on JIRA mobile, and that everything's really consistent and syncs well across products and across platforms from mobile to web. And so we're rolling out this new editor. The mobile editor uses the same component, like what I said on the web, and the same one as JIRA. So it just gives you a really smooth, seamless experience. Just one more before and after. On mobile, we're rolling out a new viewing experience so that when you're on the go and you want to stay informed, you can read pages really quickly, and they'll appear the same way they do on the web. Formerly, the spacing was a bit harder to read, and the panels and stuff looked a bit outdated, so we just gave it all a nice refresh. I want to dive into another problem that teams run into. And so the next topic is about mimicking success inside an organization. Many teams have different standards which introduce inconsistencies and make it difficult for teams to adopt best practices across your organization. And this is how templates can actually save the day, because rather than having a bunch of different teams with different pages and some people having really nice pages and then you feeling bad about yourself because your pages don't look as good. Trust me, I've been there. With templates, your pages will just look really good off the shelf, so you can be proud of the content that you make and you don't have to feel like so-and-so on marketing has a better page than you. And it also just has great content, makes it useful and well organized, and it makes it really easy to use our Atlassian playbook. So I can show you some of our templates. Pretty much Confluence can cater to all types of teams across the organization, and it helps all types of teams work together. And these are just a few examples of new marketing templates that we've added to Confluence recently. It's a great way to break down silos between teams and disseminate information from marketing to R&D and back, or into product. We know that software teams and product teams tend to be more familiar with Confluence, and this way we're hoping that marketing teams will get some value out of it too, so you don't have to like copy and paste your Confluence pages into Google Docs, or you don't have to explain to marketing what JIRA is anymore. Hopefully they'll just do their work in there too. Makes things easy. Next page. We also recently added goal setting templates so that teams can set objectives in Confluence and figure out how they want to work together to execute. So these templates make goal setting scalable and repeatable inside an organization, and they also look good and the information's easy to understand. These are the way that we set goals at Atlassian. So the templates help you to follow the practices that we use, but you also can adjust them to be whatever your team needs. And you can go into your global space settings and adjust the templates to whatever types of goals you need, or really just whatever you need. So they're a really great place to start, but you can also customize them. On to our next problem, which is immediate strategy and progress updates. This is an issue that our teams even face within Atlassian. I think it's something that's really hard across lots of companies. And we've already talked about the problems and duplicate work that stem from lack of alignment among teams. And integrations play a big role in addressing these issues. In building dynamic pages with common tools, you can bring in information from other sources so that everyone can be consistently working off of the same information. And so with integrations, our dynamic pages have live updates from other tools like JIRA or JIRA Service Desk or Bitbucket or Trello, so that you don't have to do status updates in every single different place. You can hopefully do your status update in one place and then pull that information in from all your other tools. So one way to do this is with the brand new JIRA roadmap macro. I think this one is really beautiful. I think they did a great job on it. And they've introduced roadmaps inside NextGen. I know that not everyone has migrated their projects to NextGen yet, but I think this is a really great reason to do so. It's really easy to go into the macro menu in JIRA. You choose the JIRA roadmap macro, and then you add the URL for your roadmap, and it'll just automatically get added to your Confluence page. So you can even filter through your JIRA roadmap on Confluence. And if you're an engineer and you need an exec to see how work is progressing, you need to communicate what's going on with your projects. I'm still going on the macros. You can just do this to make sure your team gets the right information. And just last but not least, you don't even have to use the macro menu to pull this into your Confluence pages. You can just take the URL directly from your JIRA roadmap, and if you paste it onto the page, it'll create the roadmap kind of automatically right there on the page for you. Okay, now onto Google Drive. So this is just a little snapshot of the new and improved Google Drive macro. And it's not just Google Sheets, it covers Google Sheets, Slides, and Google Docs. And it works the same way as the roadmap. So you can either drop a URL in from a Google Sheet, Doc, or Slides, and it'll just automatically embed it in the page for you. But you can also use the slash menu for this. And it's a bidirectional data flow. So you don't have to leave Confluence to do a calculation in the Google Sheet or make a change to the slide. You actually can do it right there on your Confluence page, and it'll be reflected back in the file itself. So you don't have any room for information asymmetry. All the changes are live updated. On to our next problem. So similarly to siloed teams, this is sort of the flip side, and I want to talk about closed communication, sort of one of the problems that comes from siloed teams. So when teams can't find the information they need, they can't work independently and perform to the best of their abilities. Like when there are information silos or lockdown folders in Google Drive, with Confluence, instead, you can actually organize your spaces, navigate with features like drag and drop, search, which is improving, by the way. I'm super excited about that one, and people and teams profiles. So really the biggest benefit that I see from Confluence is that it's just an open source for your information, and it's really easy to store and find the things that you need in a way that makes sense for your teams and is organized. We do it by projects and teams, but just the open access makes it really easy to break down those silos. So if we go to some of the features to help with this, the first one I want to talk about is contextual create. There we go. So contextual create allows you to start creating new content from where you want it to be in the page tree. So you can see if you hover over a page, you can actually just add a new page directly to where it is in the page tree. There's no more wondering where to find that new page you just created. And organization experts would tell you that a tiny habit to store everything in a predictable place as soon as you get it goes a long way to help you stay organized. So for this, we kind of like to think that we're helping you become the Marie Kondo of your space, and giving you all the tools you need and habits to really stay organized within your Confluence spaces. Next one, which seems like sort of a no-brainer, but actually makes a huge difference, is drag and drop. So now finally you can simply drag and drop to organize and reorganize pages in your space right from the page tree. You can move a page up and down and between a top level and a deeply nested location. And in case you want to revert a misstep, you can easily undo a page move. You get a confirmation flag and it lets you to undo, if you see right here. And the sleek user experience is powered by React, beautiful D&D, an open source library developed at Atlassian. So if you're interested in that library, definitely go check it out. The next Marie Kondo tool for you is the recent drawer, which provides you a list of all of your recently visited pages, and it just surfaces it in a way which is much easier to find than it was before. So you can get right back to the pages whenever you need and wherever you are in Confluence. So if you've ever wondered like where your drafts have gone, they're now only one click away. And you can access the recent drawer just from the global navigation, the narrow blue bar on the left, that part with the Confluence logo and the search icon and the plus, or via the keyboard. So I think you might be able to click this one and it'll show the recent drawers, just that one right under the Confluence logo. Yeah, there we go. And we're in the middle of a gradual rollout on this feature, so if you don't see it yet, it'll come soon. We also have some other changes to the navigation, so there's a chance that you're seeing the sidebar showing up on the top on some instances. We've started a gradual rollout for that too. So if your instance is looking a little bit different from that, we're doing a couple of experiments on the best way to show you this. But regardless of if it's on the top or on the side, it's definitely coming, and it'll make it easier to find your recently viewed pages. On to our next one. I'm really excited to introduce teams and people profiles. And teams and people profiles give people on your team a better understanding of who you are, what teams you're working on, and what they're working on. So it's sort of just giving you a personal profile and a team profile within Confluence to make it really easy to see who is the right person to talk to if you're looking for different people within your organization. So when you're clicking on people from the product nav, there's a people directory screen where you can see people in teams. You can search for them. You can see avatars of people who frequently worked with you and a list of your teams. You can go on to the next one now. It's just an example of a team profile. And you can use this to see what a team is working on. So you can see here we have the busy bees, a team. They're swarming like it's second nature. And we just have all of the information about them right here in one place. So on a team page, you can see recent work. You can stay informed about what the busy bees are up to. You can even add resources to your team so that everyone on the team can see what's important. So you can sort of treat this as like your team homepage. You have your space home, but some teams have multiple spaces, and so we also wanted to give you a team home where you can add any information for people to find. And if you go to the next slide, the same is true for people profiles. So that was the Busy Bees, and then this Alana Smith might be one of the members of the Busy Bees. And so let's assume that I know that Alana has been working on something and I need an update on it. I can just go straight to her profile and I can see what she's been doing. And some other cool features are on here that you can identify someone directly from a piece of content. So if you hover over an @ mention, you can see who that person is. You can view someone's profile and you can see who they are and what they're working on across Confluence and JIRA. So this doesn't only pull in what's on Confluence. If you see this like places where they work, you can also see what's going on their JIRA. And you can search for someone by name and see what they're working on if you go to the people directory. So we're just making it really easy to find people in your organization and track down whatever work you know that they might have touched. And then last but not least in this section, you can also tag entire teams now. So say you're hosting a meeting for your team, rather than going through the painstaking process of tagging each person individually, which previously I had done many times as the product manager, like meeting with 20 people, you tag all of them. Now you can just tag the whole team. So you can see here, you tag the Busy Bees, saves you a lot of time, makes sure that everyone is on the same page and has access to the materials that they need. Okay, so that was a ton of stuff, but it helps to solve a lot of really common problems that come up across organizations, and it really just opens up your work in a way that I think just makes teamwork a lot smoother and a lot easier. So the next problem on the agenda, or I guess just the next thing we're going to talk about here, is enterprise features to scale. So we know that as teams use Confluence more and more, they encounter different problems than the ones that they were having when they just started out. So the problems that apply to smaller teams and all of our teams across Confluence, we make sure they go into standard and free, and we really want them to be for everyone. But certain problems we know only become relevant when teams hit a certain size and they reach an enterprise scale. So in an effort not to clog up the standard and free experience, we put some features into our enterprise products, and I'll talk through a bit of those right now. So if you go to the next slide, hopefully everyone here has seen this by now, but if not, I'm really happy to announce Confluence Cloud Premium. And this launched in August, and our goal here is to give more visibility, controls, and platform support for growing teams to address the challenges that come with scale. If you go to the next slide, here's how Premium can support your team as you grow. So you can make better decisions when you use analytics to report on your business decisions and to make different choices across your resourcing and different projects. So essentially, we want to help you make smarter decisions and give you the information you need to make the right choice. Secondly, we know that admins spend a lot of time addressing page permissions and space permission issues within Confluence. So as organizations get bigger, we are giving admins tools in Premium to help solve these problems really fast. So rather than spending hours troubleshooting how to give someone access to that one page, we're giving you tools to diagnose issues quickly and then go in and debug those issues with things like admin key and inspect permissions. And you also get expedited support for some of those issues that you can't solve yourself. So with Premium, you get 24/7 support. And then the last one, support sort of falls in here, but really we want to allow you to scale with confidence. So that's 99.9% uptime, unlimited storage, and 24/7 support. So you never have to worry about your site going down. You never have to worry about running out of storage. And you know that if you run into issues that you just can't solve, you'll have support just whenever you need it, 7 days a week. So if we dive into exactly what comes with Confluence Cloud Premium, you get everything that's in standard, but then you also get some advanced features like admin key, analytics, inspect permissions, journal collaboration, which is coming soon, and then the platform features that I just mentioned. So that's, again, support, storage, and SLAs, so that if we can't support, if we don't have the uptime that we guarantee, you'll get a refund on your next bill, just to clarify exactly what that means. So one important thing to note is that standard's not changing. I want to make sure that everyone knows we're not taking anything out of standard. You'll still have the exact experience that you know and love, plus a ton of new features. The majority of our team and our resources go into standard. We just add features to Premium that are specific to larger teams and their needs as they scale Confluence across their organization. So I'm going to just demo a couple of these Premium features. This is a video too, so if you just click again. This one is admin key. So if you're an admin, you've probably seen a message like this saying, I need access to this page, I'm locked out. And with admin key, you can get temporary access to restricted pages really quickly so you can see what's going on. When you use admin key, restricted pages appear in your page tree and allow you to make permissions changes to unblock people as necessary. So situations that previously would have taken you days or even weeks in some cases to fix now take a fraction of the time. Some examples of times when you might use this is someone on a team created a page, locked it down, and then they went on leave or they left the company and you need access to that page. Your admin now can really quickly go in and help you out. Next one I want to show is inspect permissions. And so inspecting permissions helps admins in a similar issue, but it allows them to go in and really troubleshoot what the issue is before they go and make any changes. So sometimes we know that as your page tree grows and permissions get tangled and convoluted, it becomes difficult to tell where exactly you need to make changes to give someone permission. And again, if you could just click, it's a video. With inspect permissions, you can easily go into the permissions dialog and you can see what's going on with permissions for a certain user to address the issue. So if you put in the username, you can see exactly why they don't have access to a page, whether it's from an inherited restriction or a space restriction or a restriction on the page itself. This feature definitely helps admins, but it also helps end users. So I've run into the case many times where I send out a page that I thought someone had access to and they get it and they're like, I still need access. And so rather than having to go and take this to your admin, this actually empowers end users to be able to solve restrictions themselves. And so we are working on some changes which will just make the entire permissions scheme hopefully simpler. But until then, inspect permissions is a really, really easy way to see exactly where problems are and help you get unblocked in a fraction of the time. And then these next few slides, you actually just need to sort of click through. So analytics can be found in the side nav on any page. And this shows an overview of activity on your site. And it can be filtered by hour, day, week, or month. If you keep going, you can see over time how site usage changes and whether it aligns with new initiatives or projects at your company. And you can also go in and see a list of users on your site and how much they're using Confluence. So here you could see filter by created, updated, comments, search, views, all of the users for any date or time period and different types of content. You can also see popular search terms, and this comes in handy if you work with a global team that uses different terminology for certain phases. For example, here you can see that there are no searches with cell phone policy as the result, but there are 1,000 searches for this term. And in this case, it's because Atlassian is an Australian company, and this page is actually called mobile policy on our site. So with the search analytics, you could see if people are accessing the content that you're putting out. And if not, like in this case, you can make sure that you update the page title to make it easier for your users to find the content that they need. You can also see a list of spaces and filter to see these spaces, and you can see which ones are the most popular or the ones that are not being used anymore. And that way you can go in and archive them, clean things up, or you can see which teams are really active on Confluence and maybe ask them for some best practices, talk to them about the way that they're using the product, so maybe they can help out other teams. If you filter by the unpopular and stale, you can also see like things that were never viewed or maybe have been on the site for years, and it's time to archive those. We keep going. One more, sorry. So you also have analytics on a space level and on a page level. So what I showed you before was on a site level, and then here is an overview for a space. So it's a similar view, but just scoped down from your whole site down to a single space. And you can go into one space at a time and see a list of activity within that space. You can see, if you go to the next slide, which pages are the most popular, and you can filter for content that works really well and turn those contents into templates to standardize across your spaces. So like if you know that a certain project poster or a certain milestones page work really well and people are viewing them a lot, you can go and templatize that and make it available to all of your users. You can also figure out, similarly to the site level, which pages within your space are not being used and either circulate them more widely because they should be being viewed, but they're not. Or you can clean them out so that you don't have clutter in your page tree. And one thing that's actually coming to standard and premium within the next couple of months is page archiving. So right now you can only delete pages that you no longer want to keep in your page tree, but we're building out archiving so that you can just hide them, get rid of some of the clutter, but preserve the content in case you need it later. So keep an eye out for that one as well. You can also export your pages to Excel if you just want some sort of documentation of everything in your space, how much activity there is. But this is just one button, makes it really easy to export all your content. And then you even also have analytics on every single page. So I showed you a site level, we talked about a space level, and you also have analytics on a page level. So if you click onto the little analytics button in your page information, it shows, if you just go to the next slide, anyone, so admins and end users, this is for everyone across your site, can click on analytics for a quick view of how many pages they have, how many people have viewed their page, and how many people have commented on their page. And you can go in and view more analytics besides this snapshot, and it'll show you exactly who's viewed the page, how the views change over time, and which version of the page people have viewed. I use this a lot for meetings, and for anyone who is in the WIT lunch this afternoon, this is what I was talking about, where page analytics comes in handy with meeting agendas, because you can send out pre-reading materials and make sure that everyone who's coming to the meeting has read the right version of the page. So let's say you've updated the page recently and you want to know that everyone in this half an hour meeting has all the information so that you can make the best use of your time. If you check analytics, you can then send out a friendly reminder to make your meetings more effective. So you can just, like, if you check half an hour before and only 2 people have read the page, just say like, hey, wanted to circulate this agenda again. And it just makes your meetings all that much more effective. And then, this was just another one of inspect permissions, which I guess we could show it again. I just wanted to make sure we had another video in there because it got updated. But yeah, you can just check the permissions for any user on a given page, and it'll show you exactly why they're denied. You can go in and see who the page author is. You can view the page directly from there. And you can actually, if you have a really big, complicated page tree, you can reduce the number of levels that show up to make it really easy to see where the issues are. So that is an overview of our premium features to date. We have a few more coming that I'm really excited about, like I mentioned, archiving and external collab, but those aren't quite ready for demo. So if you dial into the remote summit, that's where you'll get a sneak peek of those. So now I would just like to open the floor up to questions. You can ask me anything. I am the product manager on Premium, but I have a bit of knowledge about what's going on across all of the other teams. And if I don't know, then I'll be sure to get you an answer afterwards. So fire away.
We're getting technology here.
Okay.
Going to open it up to the room or something.
Let's see if this works. We haven't
like
actually
bubble.
used this before, so this is the first time.
We need
Anybody
a question. I do. Oh, really? So I just talk into this? Oh, that's so much fun. Hi, Hilary. I'm Susan, one of the ACE leaders from Toronto, and I am overly amazed at the wonderful new features that are in cloud, but as a diehard server, you guys seem to be advancing much faster than the server features. Is that my imagination, or do you have any comment or know what's going on the server side of Confluence?
So that's not your imagination. The cloud team is a lot bigger than the server team. We still are doing lots of great work in server, especially in data center. And there's a ton of features coming out of that end. But at Atlassian, our big push really is towards the cloud. We want to make sure that we can support all of the enterprise scale server customers one day on the cloud if possible. And so we are investing a bit more on the cloud side, but the server team and the data center team are still putting out lots of great stuff. And the most popular things from the cloud, they do have on their roadmap and they build them out too. So I know it can definitely be a bit frustrating to see all of this great stuff coming to the cloud and having it be a little bit more behind in server. But if there are specific things that you really want to see, I can definitely pass along feedback to the server team. But also, we really want you to, hopefully, if we can support your scale, one day try out the cloud too, because that's sort of our long-term bet.
Questions? Anyone? Questions? You more?
So my favorite feature is the drag and drop along the sidebar for page reordering.
I will tell
Is
the
that on the, can you tell the server team to please deliver that ASAP?
I will pass that along, definitely.
Okay. Oh, and one other question I had before I pass it on. One of the weird things I saw when you're showing about like when you're trying to figure out if someone's restricted or not, and you said like there was a little like a view page, but if they're restricted from viewing the page, they wouldn't actually see the page, would they, on that little, you're restricted from it? I didn't understand that.
Yeah, so if you are the one who personally doesn't have access to the page, you can't see that dialogue just because it might be exposing some sensitive information that you're not supposed to be able to see. But who can see the dialogue is if you're the page owner and you're sending out the page, but you're not sure why people can't see the page, you can go in and check on your own page what's going on with the permissions. So like, let's say for you, Susan, I sent you a page and you tell me you can't see it, even though I thought that it was opened up. I could type in your name to see what's going on. And actually, the admin key feature and the inspect permissions feature go hand in hand really well for troubleshooting permissions issues because let's say there's a page that no one can see. You're locked out because someone's on leave. The admin can use the admin key to go into the page, and if they're still not sure what's going on, they can then use inspect permissions on the page to figure out what's happening. But that one, we do keep the admin key just for site admins because that's a lot of power to have on a site, and we want to make sure that it's really kept in the right hands.
All right, just basically to go along with your question, Susan, in terms of like, yeah, it's like the feature that I'm interested in, and I've been asking from like, I was asking the server team in Vegas at like the last conference about the Trello macro. Wondering if there's any plans to have that in there, because that would be absolutely fantastic to have. And also related to, let's say, like a plugin that Atlassian bought, like Ultimate Permissions Manager, that was in server but no longer is, and now it's been integrated into data center, and it doesn't look like there's any plans to bring that functionality into server. So questions about like that sort of thing, like I know this is not unrelated, but it's like Atlassian bought Code Barrel as well, so I'm afraid that like the automation that's going to happen to that plugin, because we rely on that like heavily, and so like I would hate to see those things discontinued.
Yeah. So for the Ultimate Permissions Manager, I know that is planned to be only for data center, but if you're a current user, they're not going to shut it down right away. So you would still get to continue using it on server, but if you want it through Atlassian, through the integrated package, it is going to be in data center. And same with Code Barrel. I think that the emails went out last week about the grandfathering schedule, but automation for JIRA will be part of JIRA Premium. So if you buy JIRA Premium, you get all of the value of Code Barrel, plus the other platform features like the unlimited storage, the 99.9% uptime SLA with refund guarantees, and the 24/7 support. So you get all that plus Code Barrel for the price of JIRA Premium. And I think that their grandfathering period was 3 to 6 months. And so anyone who currently uses Code Barrel in cloud would end up needing to get premium after 6 months, I think, in order to keep using the features. So maybe that's not what you want to hear, but those are being purchased to be integrated into the data center and premium packages.
Do you have any more questions? Hey, can I get a big... Okay. Thank you very much, Hilary. That was really great, really informative. I'm really excited about Confluence Cloud. I just want some of the stuff on server as well. But luckily we have Cathy here who's a Confluence expert who first taught me my first time on Confluence for the price of lunch, came in and helped me out to learn all the tricks and tips. So now she's going to share some of them with us now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Danny, do you switch this over? Okay.
Okay, I just have to
Great.
get my
switchovers, guys.
share. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yep. Oh, this
There
go?
we go.
Yeah. Yay! Technology, it's so much fun. Yeah, my name's Cathy. I've been using Confluence since 2011, so I go back to the days of wiki markup. I think I've spoken at meetings before, so some of you may recognize me. If not, nice to meet you all. My presentation is called 10 Tips in 10 Minutes. I just said that because I thought it sounded cool. It's a little bit more than 10 minutes, but we'll, kind of, the idea was a variety of things that I've learned over the years using Confluence. Some things I figured out on my own, some things other people showed me. But a lot of this really are things that I kind of wish someone had shown me, because, Confluence is something that you can learn on your own with doing some digging, but not everybody is inclined to just have to figure it all out on their own, right? So it's really helpful if you have someone to just give you some tips along the way. And a lot of these things are, I've been a Atlassian consultant in the past as well, and so I work with people who are adopting Confluence, maybe in a whole range. Sometimes people are brand new. Maybe they've had a little bit of formal training, maybe not. And right up to people who have been working with it a while, and a range of comfort levels, I would say, with Confluence. So some of these are a little bit more on the, kind of for to help user adoption, to help people who are who wouldn't be considered, they're not power users yet, but they're trying. And I hope I've thrown a few things in here, even for people who are power users or on track for becoming power users. And, again, going into some nooks and crannies. So one of the first things I like to point out to people is every Confluence user actually does have a profile. It might not be super obvious. The initial sign-up flow doesn't even really take you into your profile, so you might not realize that there's handy settings in there. And at least for now, it is distinct from your JIRA profile. One thing, it would be wonderful if the JIRA and Confluence had more of a consolidated profile, because there are some things in there that look similar. I think on cloud, they're getting to that, maybe not on server, but that would be a cool thing.
Yeah, I was just going to say those are consolidated now.
Yeah, great. So not so much on server yet. So I have some videos built into this, which I'll kind of talk while walk you through what you're seeing here. And if we do have time for questions later, I can delve into the actual environment where I took these if need be. But we'll see how this goes. So I just wanted to point out, for example, you're going to see your profile in the at the top of this, at the top right corner, there's a little menu that actually says profile. So some of these settings, not everything is as, not everything, for example, in the thing actually called profile, will have fields that you can fill in. It depends on whether you're integrated with a directory system, but most of these things will have settings that are meaningful. So I've gone from profile into the picture. So this is, again, not everybody uploads a picture in their initial sign up. So this is where you can get back to that place to upload a profile picture. And this is one of those, seems kind of trivial, but actually from an adoption perspective, encouraging people to upload pictures or something uniquely identifying huge, huge in adoption. People respond and connect so much better to content that has a real little mugshot on it or little kind of avatar. And Confluence doesn't come with any avatars like JIRA does. So people, if you want something other than a little gray circle, head and shoulders, you know, this is a good thing to encourage people to do. And those of you who are looking to, you know, have some responsibility for helping people adopt Confluence, lead by example, and hopefully put an avatar in there. So this is the first thing I do in any environment that I'm working in. I don't mind if people see my face, because usually I want them to recognize me if, you know, they have questions about Confluence. So there's a fairly straightforward way to just like upload or drag and drop. Just to notice that there are other settings up here that you can, some of these things are different areas you can also get to from that menu that comes down from your, from the top right corner. And, you know, so there's some duplication there. But for example, there's a settings area that has things like you could set a different homepage for when you log in if you like. So there's some settings here. And it's a little bit, I sort of feel like the Confluence profile area shows signs of it's been around for a long time and some things kind of got added to it in bits and pieces over time, and maybe it's not the most intuitive area. So you just have to kind of get poke around and see what's there. There are some editor settings. You can turn off some of these features if you don't like them. So definitely come back and explore. And we're going to talk a little bit more there's some other tips that'll bring you back into this profile area as we continue. Keyboard shortcuts. So you might have stumbled upon these. Cloud is doing kind of a cool thing, which is the little icons or little labels for the keyboard shortcuts are a little bit more obvious. They're there in server. You just have to, they just don't jump out maybe quite as easily. And so the video that I'm showing you will just cover some of the ones that I use a lot. So I'm very much still a mouse user, but I find that my hands, there's other things though that, you know, hands on the keyboard is quite convenient. So in case you didn't know, there's actually a place up under the help menu for the whole list of keyboard shortcuts. And so there's a number of them. Some of them are just like a single letter key. Some of them are from when you're in what I would call view mode. Others are when you're in the editing mode. And so for example, so those were some of the ones that were the general mode. These ones in the editor, I probably use these ones the most, some of these auto formatting ones. And so again, you know, things like the emoticons, if you know what the keyboard shortcut is, you can type it rather than picking it. So I'm just going into on this, just going into the edit mode on a page here, or if you'll notice up at the top, even the places where you click on the buttons for edit or save for later as you hover, or even you see something's underlined, that's the keyboard shortcut. That's what it's trying to point out to you. So I even forget these myself sometimes. I'm just on the page here, I'm just making a little space to kind of show you as I'm typing. So when I'm going to add a macro or a link, I tend to hit these keyboard shortcuts. You know, the open curly brace to bring up the macro browser, or if you're going to insert a file that's attached, it's the exclamation point. And probably the one that I use the most, I can't remember if I don't think I included it in the video here, but the one that I probably use the most is, you know, we've got this big space over on that sidebar menu, and sometimes it can take up a lot of space, and so you can collapse it. You can do that with, you know, with your mouse. You can hit the little thing in the middle there, but the left square bracket when you're in view mode toggles that menu open and close. I use that one all the time, all the time. It's my absolute favorite keyboard shortcut. So just get that out of the way or open it up again, very quick. Okay, number 3, remember me. I don't have a video for this one because the environment I was using has like a sort of a single sign-on thing, so you didn't see this page. But one of the things I hear from people who use, especially people who use Confluence kind of occasionally, they're not sitting in it all day, but they kind of jump in and out of it maybe a couple times a day or every few days, and they complain bitterly that why does it keep prompting me to enter my username and password? And again, from an adoption point of view, people having to enter their credentials is probably their number one, annoyance. So there is actually just a little remember me checkbox on that login form. And it's not saving your password, but it's just setting a little cookie in your browser to keep you logged in. So if you have a policy, for example, against saving passwords, this is a good alternative. It'll keep you logged in until you explicitly log out or clear your cookies. So again, I try to encourage people to, if you make a browser bookmark, do it after you've logged in, so you're not always coming to this page, and just click that remember me. So this might not necessarily apply to situations where you're using environments if you have single sign-on kind of things, but not everybody has that. So small tip, but I've run into so many people that this is their major peeve with Confluence. Why does it keep telling me? Why does it keep prompting me to enter my credentials? Probably pet peeve number 2 has to do with email notifications. There are so many. Why do I get so many emails from Confluence? I get so many, I just ignore them. I just, I file them, I delete them. So, email a lot of people still find email useful. So the trick is to get the right number of emails, to just get emails for things that you care about so that you will pay attention to them. So some of what happens is people don't necessarily are aware of the difference between space and page, 2 types of levels of watching, space and page, and how they've sort of signed up for that. There is a handy place to see all in one spot everything that you're watching, and it does let you unwatch or stop watching things if you need to. And then some of the other aspects of email notifications. Why might you actually be watching more than you kind of intended? So this can sneak up on people. And there actually is something that's an alternative to watching whole spaces or pages, and it's a feature called a daily report email. So I'm going to show you at the end of this little section. We'll get to a spot where I would say if I was in charge of Confluence, there's one thing I'd like to make different in the default settings. Okay, so this is a bit of a longer one, so let me just kind of walk you through it. So on the page, you can see if you're watching just that page, or you can see if you're even watching an entire space. But down, so you can do that one at a time, but down on your on that left menu, you can go into your watches, and you'll see it divided into spaces and pages. And here's where you can stop them. So some of the things that could be going on, for example, I'm going to show you an example of why I'm watching pages right from the very beginning, and maybe I didn't even realize it. So I'm creating a new page here. It's in a space, I'm not watching the space, but I can see that as soon as I've created this new page, I'm already watching it. And so this is probably the number one reason, could be the number one reason why you end up with a lot more page watching than you intended, especially if you're a person that creates quite a lot of content. So this is in an area of your settings called email. And the one at the very top is something called auto watch. So that pages, blog posts that you create, edit, or comment on, you're automatically watching. That default setting is true. People who have never gone into their profile don't realize that auto watch is turned on in their user profile. And it even to the point where you're adding a comment on a page, and the little checkbox at the bottom for I want to watch this page because I've made a comment is automatically checked on. So if you want to look at an alternative to watching a lot of content, if you turn off auto watch, it means you can be more selective with what you watch. And then the second setting here, subscribe to daily updates. There's a once a day email that gets sent out unless you've changed the timing, it's at midnight. And you'll get it once a day, and it'll cover all content that you have permission to view. You'll see just a digest, a list organized by space of all new and updated content. So again, you can just then choose which ones you want to go and check out. So I would say that that's very handy if you just, you sort of want to lightly keep an eye on things, or again, if you're trying to get an idea on who's creating content and, you watch a few different spaces, you have some responsibility for a fair amount of content. That's a great tool. And then, you can watch individual pages because you really do want an immediate notification email of something that changes. So just a little bit of trying to demystify a little bit, like how do you go and look at what you're watching, potentially turn off watches that you don't want. And one of the things that can also happen of why are people watching spaces, it used to be, I think it might still do this, but when people are first signing up for Confluence, it forces you to pick some spaces and says what might you be interested in? And you've not only starred those, but you're watching them. So that's one of those things that maybe, you want to kind of look at that, or if people are complaining about getting a lot of emails, that's the first thing to look at. So email, like I said, I don't have anything against email. It's just helping people get the control of their email. Yes?
Is there a way to subscribe to daily updates?
Yeah.
Everything you have a permission to just get it. You don't need to be on top of things. Is there a way to get a daily email on things you're following?
No. So what it is that you either are following spaces or pages, and you're going to get immediate notification emails every time someone changes something and doesn't uncheck the notify watchers, although they will batch them up a little bit now. So it's kind of either you potentially are getting a lot of them if content is changing quite a bit, or you can do this one email a day.
The server and cloud, are these settings the same?
This area is pretty much the same. Yeah, you don't see a lot of difference in this area, at least for now. There are lots of add-ons that can give you more granular control over watches and that, but this is kind of the base product. So yeah, watches, love them or hate them. Okay. Just a really, really quick tip that I'm embarrassed to say I didn't figure this out for the longest time. So sometimes people have content in Excel, and you're trying to encourage them to use Confluence. And they say, well, I don't want to have to convert this content. It's going to take me so long. If you just have a table, like a lot of people have simple tables in Excel, things that don't have formulas, and you're trying to say, why don't you could put that on a Confluence page, and then it's so much easier for people to view that content. Well, you can actually, there's a copy and paste trick. And so I have a page here. I just created an empty page as someplace to hold a new table. So here's a table in Excel. I'm literally just going to select the content. I know there's formulas here. I don't really care. I just want to see I just care about the end result here. So I'm just copying that selection. And then when I go into the page in the edit mode, I can really just hit paste, and it will bring that table across as a Confluence table. I can go up into the table tools now and make that a header row at the top. And now that content is in Confluence, and I can kind of retire my spreadsheet. So again, just a really, really quick little thing, because sometimes people have bits of content in other formats. This tends to work with Word as well. copy a table from like a Word document. Again, if it's just fairly simple, don't worry about reconstructing the table. Just copy and paste. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so once you've got it in this mode, sometimes they're a little bit hard to see, but when you have your cursor within a table, you get a whole set of table tools, and there is cut and copy both rows and columns in the Confluence editor. So sometimes it's not super obvious because the icons can be really small, right? And you have to put your cursor within the boundaries of the table, and then that extra row opens up. And you sort of have to hover over them a bit to see if you need to see the label. But they're similar to table tools in Word, for example. So you do have some of those basic ones. Confluence tables are limiting, as Hilary mentioned. If you want to go into things with like calculations and pivot tables and all that, you're just really better to stick with Excel and then incorporate those into Confluence, or look at some of the add-ons that can introduce those features. But for a lot of people, a table to them just means something with like rows and columns. And so you can hopefully move people into Confluence content this way.
Can I ask it for Google Sheets? It's the same, like when you copy from Google Sheets, it won't take the formulas as well? It'll do the same as this?
So this is just, if you're just talking about base Confluence, if you copy something that basically has rows and columns, it'll just kind of treat it as a simple table. So it's more that you don't have to retype everything, that you kind of get that content in there, but it's not going to take formulas. Okay, attachments. So an area that I think that I have found a lot of people just don't know that much about attachments is how versatile they are, and some of the features that are built into working with attachments. When I say attachments, these could be image files that you embed into pages to provide image content. Sorry, I keep hitting that. Or it could be attached files like PDFs that you want to store within Confluence to help people access them. So sometimes people are moving away from shared network drives and they want to use Confluence as a lightweight document repository. So these are some things that'll help with both images and that idea of like lightweight document storage. So attachments do have properties, and within those properties you can actually rename attachments right in that dialog. You don't have to download an attachment or a file, change the file name, upload it again. You can actually do it right there. And you know, one of my pet peeves is if you've taken a screenshot or you've imported a document from Word, you may have like an identifier on those file names that are either letters and numbers or just like a timestamp. So one of the great things about Confluence and files is that the Confluence search searches file names. And when file names are meaningful, when they actually describe the content of the document, your search is more likely to find hits on content from your file content, not just your page titles. So by renaming your images, if they don't have like image files or PDF files, any of those files, having actual meaningful names will enhance their discoverability. And Confluence makes it easy because there's just this little place where you can go into the attachment properties and change it right there. You can move attachments to a different page quite easily. Again, you don't have to like download and upload again. And this is also, I definitely recommend a single source of any particular attachment. So you can move an attachment, if you've already even linked to it on one page, you can move it to a different page and it won't break the links from the original pages. And remember to let Confluence handle versioning of attachments, not just pages. So here's a couple of just kind of quick demo on that. So I have this page here that has a number of attachments. And you'll see that when we look at the file names, some of them are kind of user-friendly, some of them are the bane of my existence, which is when you import things from Word and you end up with Word, blah, 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 gobbledygook. So when I say document properties, this is something you can get when you've gone into like your attachments view. So you can just change the file name. So that is very easy to do. You'll also see in here you can access adding labels. You can put a comment just like on a page for a page version. And this one I'm going to show you moving it to a new page. So I actually created a page to kind of hold this image. So when you start typing in the page, you actually can select it. It will actually, as you start typing, present pages to you. But you do have to know the page title. That's one thing you have to when you do this trick. So what I've got now is that attachment was moved from one page to another page, and now I can embed it into this quite easily. And this I have no idea where I stole, who shared this with me, but it is one of my most favorite things ever, because it has like columns and rows, and they're 100% accurate. So this is just to show you about when I was saying about versioning. So if you upload an attachment to the same page with the exact same file name, Confluence will create a new version number for that attachment, and any previous one will be numbered as, you know, version 1, version 2, whatever, and the content in the page or whatever is linked to that document will always show the most current one. So remember, Confluence does this with pages, but it does it with your attachments. No need to rename things, you know, .v1, .v2, whatever. Just let Confluence do it for you. And so this is actually really great, not just with images. If you have to, you know, you take a new screenshot, you just name it the same thing and go and update it. So I used this extensively when I was in a support team, and I wrote, you know, knowledge-based articles. I would have to change screenshots, you know, because the application would change, and I would find those images. I would, you know, take a new screenshot, name it the same thing, pop it into my page. It was great, much easier. But also why it helps to put image like real names or meaningful or user-friendly names on all of your files, the same as you would with your page names. Okay, a little bit more on attachments. So you may be familiar with a page template called a file list. The file list is it's just like a page that its main content is something called the attachments macro. And the attachments macro is something you can use on any page to bring the attached files on a page much more front and center. So that not just with images, for example, but with other types of files you might have attached, like PDFs, PowerPoint presentations. Again, if you're using Confluence as a way to access that content, you don't have to have you know, people sort of look at the little paperclip and know and like click that and then say, oh, there's a file here. You can actually use this on any page. Again, kind of go beyond the file list macro. It could be that you have requirements documents, for example, that have supplementary material, and you want to have a section right in your requirements document, say for diagrams or something, like some type of extra artifact. You can easily kind of have them as attachments and have a nice little list of them with just this macro and a couple of clicks. So, and with labeling your attachments, you can label attachments, and then part of what you can do with the attachments macro is actually show only a subset, for example, of the attachments on a page that match certain labels. So here's a bit of a before and after. So I have this page that has some materials that I've collected that are for JIRA and Confluence. And this is an example of, okay, they're attached to the page, but I want someone to be able to access them, so I just put links on the page. Okay, it's a little bit boring. It's a very manual thing because I literally, went to the attachments view, dragged and dropped all these files onto it, and then manually created links to the attachments. So, okay, that's fine. That's attempt one. So here's what you can do with the attachments macro. So similar idea, like I have 3 PDFs that I've attached to my page. So right now I can click over those links, I can get the preview window up, I can download them, whatever. So that is, so the links work. But I can, and that's the attachments that we're working with if we went actually into the attachments view. Now I've put labels on these documents to say which topic they're related to. So now I can go into the edit mode, and I've made a little bit of space for, I'm going to put 3 instances of this macro called attachments. And you can actually copy macros. So I've just before I start changing them, I just wanted to quickly add 3. So I'll go into the properties or the parameters of the first one, and you see a bunch of different parameters here that you can adjust. So one of the things with macros is all macros have just default settings or default behavior, but if you go into that little edit button, you can start to change that behavior. And really, you just have to play with them and see what kind of things are available. So for example, this attachments macro, you can determine whether you show previous versions or not, how it's sorted. There's a little thing for allow upload. That means where you show the list of files, will you have the little upload box right there. So let me just go again. And so the first instance, I didn't put any labels on it. The second instance, I'm going to say I only want to see the files that have the label Confluence. So I'm changing some of the parameters. I tend to like sorting them by name because then it'll do alphabetical, or you can do reverse. And you can always preview right in the window to see if you've made any mistakes or not, or if it's doing the thing that you expected. And so here's going to be my JIRA list. And in this case, I'm going to turn off, or I think I left the upload on that one. So once we save this and go back to the page, I just want you to see the difference. I added some headings as well. So the difference to the top where you have those links versus the sections where you have a little bit more like your attachments list. So I could have my full list with an area to drag and drop new ones, or that was with the label, I showed just a partial list. A couple of the other parameters, one of the ones I didn't show you there was there's a file name, a matching pattern. So you could actually use this to say you have a mixture of, I have PDFs, I have JPEGs, I have PNGs, and I only want to have a list of the PDFs. You can use that one to actually show only files of a certain type. So that can again be very handy when the page is a combination of how-to content with some image files versus some reference material in other formats. So this is like, you can use the out-of-the-box file list, but this lets you make your own file list pages and organize them the way you like. You can also, so another thing you can do with that attachments macro is you can pull in files that are attached to a different page altogether. So that can be a really great one for, say, again, I'm just kind of going back to requirements as an example, but say you wanted to have one central page to keep all of your architectural diagrams. Then with labels, for example, you could pull in to specific documents a subset. In some pages, you could pull just a subset of those. So you have one place with a master collection of them all, and other places with just some of them. So really handy. Attachments, yay. There's a lot going on with attachments. Okay, so there's a lot of text on this, so I'll just kind of go through it quickly. I think a hidden treasure of a macro is just this little simple one called the expand. Way back when, it was actually a user macro that someone out there in the Confluence community kind of created and shared around, and then Atlassian liked it so much they just built it in. It's one of the shortest macros ever. It has like one parameter to it, because really all it is the way to hide things under like a little expand arrow. It can make a huge difference when a page has a lot of content. If you do a PDF export, they're all automatically expanded, but the PDF export won't have the click here to view text. So don't use that as like your only title. You can put just about anything inside expand macro, including other macros. And two of my kind of favorite uses of this are with an include page macro, so that you can actually keep people on one page while viewing content from multiple pages. And also as a way of bringing the change history into the content, into the main content of the page, instead of having to go to a menu option to view it, but hiding it under this little expand so people can just kind of quickly click it open when they need to. And again, if you're doing point in time PDF snapshot of content, it will be included. So here's a couple of examples. So this page starts off as I have a section here where it's just the meeting notes template, and I want to put that list of meeting notes within an expand macro, just so that, for example, I want people to kind of concentrate on, say, the task part of it and look at the long list of all meetings if they want to. So the expand macro is super easy. It's literally the word expand. And as you see here, I've just dragged another macro inside the body of it. I'm going to move that heading down there. So it's a little bit tricky sometimes to kind of figure out how do I get into the parameter for the expand macro versus the contents of it. So there's only this one parameter. By default, it'll say click here to expand, but you can change that text. So I do try to remember to change that, because it just looks a little bit goofy if it says click here to expand all the time. So this is a pretty simple one. I just want to say, I just wanted an opportunity to kind of hide that on first page loading. So this can be great for hiding some instructions that maybe people need to see the first time they view a page, but they don't need to always see it. So any pages that are long, this is definitely a way of making that content a little bit more consumable. Okay, so this is my example of, let's put two things together, the expand macro and something called the include page. And so this is, again, initially, this is a parent page with two child pages and just the children display macro. So I've got the pages, so I can see that there's more content in this section. I could click those links if I wanted to, but I'll show you an alternative to keep the content on the distinct pages, but to kind of bring it all into one page for to help people just not have to leave a page. So as you see, I can click those. I can go into the farther down the tree. I can come back up, and I could print a PDF, for example, with all that content, but I'd have to know how to do that if I wanted multiple pages. So here I'm going to write on that parent page. Again, I've got the, I'll put in a couple of instances of the expand macro. And I'm going to use a macro called include page. So include page is another one of my favorite macros because it lets you reuse content. You can pull in content into one page that lives somewhere else. So you don't have to duplicate content. And yes, in some cases, linking might be what you want to do, but this can be really handy. I use this as well for, say I have some frequently used content, I can put it on one page and I can reference it in a lot of pages, and I only have to change it in one spot if that content has to change. So that's include page if you are organizing a knowledge base, or you have a lot of, you're helping to organize a lot of how-to content. This is really invaluable. So what I've done here is I've referenced these two different pages, and I've used the little prompt to just, kind of tell people which content they're going to view. So now when you go back to, and I could do this without putting them in the expand macro, but I find that then you have again, a really, really long page. So the different user experience now is clicking that and staying on the same page instead of having navigated away from it. And here's an example of just, that's the page include with the change history. So again, instead of a user having to know, oh, I can go up onto the page tools and look at the change history, I can actually put it right into the page. So that might be something that you can put into a page template, for example. And then I was just showing you that with a PDF export, those expand macros are automatically expanded. So you don't have to worry about that in a macro. So I think that was, or in a export. So that was pretty much it. I think it's playing it over again. Okay, so really, really, really couple of quick things. Some of the things I try to point out to people who are, I would call a space admin someone who has either created a space or is, has some responsibility for helping to maintain content in a Confluence space. And one of the things I can kind of tell if I'm looking in a Confluence instance is how much people kind of know about Confluence or are paying attention to the, I think I will make it through these last couple of minutes here. So some of the things you can see when people have taken a little bit more care or know a little bit more about Confluence with some of these space admin tasks in particular. So we've got the space sidebar, which can be adjusted. Did you know that there's a trash area, and when content is deleted, it can be restored by an admin? And this can go a long way towards, sometimes people want to lock it down and say people can't delete things, and then that can be frustrating for people. So why not consider, you know what, it's in a trash area, we can get it back if we need to. And then with the page templates, there's there's a feature in how to either turn off templates that you don't want to use in your team, or push ones to the top that you want people to be able to find quickly. So let's just, hopefully my battery will not die. So in the space tools, if you're a space admin, you'll see an option for configuring the sidebar. And one of the things similar to the idea with people putting in their avatars is try to put logos for individual spaces, because otherwise all the spaces in the space directory have the same icon, and it's really boring. And again, people process visual information quickly. So something that kind of uniquely identifies the purpose of the space, connects it to a team, whatever that is, is really helpful. And if this is a space connected to like a JIRA project, use the same icon in both. And kind of having team avatars can be a great team building exercise as well. So what I was also showing, besides you can turn off some of the features if you're not using them, you can also add links to either Confluence pages or to other outside web pages, to JIRA, all kinds of things. So remember that space shortcuts, now you can have too much of a good thing. Sometimes you don't want like 20 links there, but remember that sidebar is kind of persistent, and so you don't necessarily want to always force people to hunt through a tree to find things that you want to bubble up to make them easily accessible. So this next one is about the deleting things. So I've just gone through and I'm just showing you that I'm deleting a page, and you'll even see that when you delete a page, there's a little reminder. Oh shoot, sorry, I think I'm losing. So I'm not going to talk about page permissions unless somebody really wants to know more about page permissions. But when I was, like I said, one of the things that you can control in the page permissions is who can delete content in a space. So often the inclination that people have is to be really lock it down, right? We don't want people to delete things. But that can cause issues with people not being able to move content between spaces, because that's one of the things that's necessary. It's necessary to be able to delete pages to move them. So it can, and you can find that people are annoyed by not being able to delete things. So just remember that if you want to open it up a little bit more, especially for the primary users of a space, that don't worry about, you can open up the delete permissions and let people have, sorry, it just has to restart. You can still recover things from the trash area. And the last tip that I can just kind of walk you through a little bit was to do with the page templates. So let me just, sorry about that. I should have, I forgot that when I'm presenting, it chews up an awful lot more resources. Okay. Oh, I think I just need to, hold on a second. Let me get my blue jeans. There you go. Let me just double check that I'm still connected. All right, I think I lost my wireless. I just have to log into the, for some reason. Oh, it looks like oh, it might just take a minute. Okay. Yes, I think it's just going to take a minute for my internet to come back. So with the page templates, one of the things that a space admin can do is promote or disable the list of from the list of templates. So so for example, there are a whole bunch of blueprints that ship with Confluence. It might be that you don't want a particular team to use, for example, the DAISY template, because maybe that's not a format that you use. So you can actually hide it from people by disabling it in the list. You can always bring them back. You can also do something called promote, which means it'll push it up to the top of the list of templates instead of sort of showing them alphabetically. And so it's something that not all space admins, often people who have responsibility for, kind of owning a Confluence space don't get any kind of training in what are the features that might help you make this space usable for your team. So it's a very good practice to kind of go in and try some of these things out. And just to my 11th tip, which is, this list goes to 11, was just to remind people that we have something called personal spaces. And it is some organizations choose to turn them off, but most of the time, I do find that most of the time they're available. And it's something that's, again, under that your user avatar up in the top right corner. The very first thing on that menu if you don't have a personal space, says add a personal space, or create personal space, add, create, something like that. And personal spaces are the best way for people to learn in kind of like a private area to learn about Confluence. So if you have people who really want to dive in more and try things out, sometimes they feel like, oh, I can't do that in my team space, I'll muck something up. So personal space is a great place to, personal spaces are a great place to learn. And again, if you're someone who's, sort of looking at overall adoption in your organization, a great place to look for super users or potential power users or super users is to go to the list in your space directory. You can look at personal spaces in the space directory, and all those people who have personal spaces are very likely to be your Confluence power users, or people who have at least some interest in learning more about Confluence. And those are great people to know about for things like helping with user adoption or getting feedback about your Confluence instance. So, a little bit more than 10 minutes. Hopefully a little bit of something for everyone. And yeah, sorry about my the technical things, but hopefully it was right at the end.
Do you have any questions, Cathy?
I'll be around while we eat as well if anyone wants to just ask me personally. No problem.
So thank you very much. I'll give you a pillow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cathy. Okay, Danny, we're ready to serve up food at the back. And please come to Cathy for any questions. And thank you very much for Hilary. Too bad you weren't here in person. Thank you.